Hello gamers, Barmy here with a brand new one button tank guide for the Prot Paladin in Cataclysm. In this video I'm going to show you how anyone can tank with a Prot Paladin from the early game leveling to well into end game content. We're going to go over talents, heirlooms for leveling, gear stats and glyphs, and then we'll move on to the juicy one button macros that make playing this build so easy. I'm also going to be talking about the add-ons that I use to bring this all together and how to easily manage party threat and aggro. Now it might sound like there's a mountain of information to absorb, but don't worry, all the important sections of this video have been timestamped and everything you need to know is detailed down in the description. Also, all of the macros used in this video can be found in my Discord, which is also linked below. So now all you have to do is sit back and relax, and I'll show you how to dominate on your Prot Paladin. Let's quickly blast through the talents then. Your completed talent tree is going to look something like this. Now there's not really any wiggle room in the Prot tree, so let me just explain the most important talents. 3 out of 3 in Sanctuary, for reduced chance of being melee crit, 10% reduced damage overall, and mana back every time you block or dodge a melee attack. This leads into Shield of the Righteous, which is our single target holy power spender, which leads into Holy Shield, which is one of our main defensive cooldowns. This increases the amount that our shield blocks by 20% for 10 seconds, with only a 30-second cooldown. And this talent leads into 2 out of 2 into Sacred Duty for a 50% increased chance of some big Shield of the Righteous crits after we use Judgment and Avenger's Shield, both of which we have in our spam macro. And of course, we spec into Hammer of the Righteous, which is our juicy AoE ability and holy power builder. And this leads into 2 out of 2 in Grand Crusader, which gives our Crusader Strike and Hammer of the Righteous a 20% chance of resetting the Avenger's Shield cooldown and causing it to generate holy power if used within 6 seconds. We'll also have 3 out of 3 in Shield of the Templar for 60 seconds off our Avenging Wrath cooldown and a massive 2 minutes off the Guardian of Ancient Kings cooldown, making this our most powerful defensive cooldown, as we're going to have 50% reduced damage buff up for 12 seconds every minute. Macro this with Divine Protection, and combined with Holy Shield, you're going to be nigh on unkillable in difficult fights. This talent also makes your Divine Plea generate 3 holy power, which makes it a super juicy 2-minute cooldown, and should be used in conjunction with Avenging Wrath, as its cooldown is now also 2 minutes. The last skill in the Prot tree is Ardent Defender, the perfect oh shit button on a 3-minute cooldown. The remainder of our talent points are going to go into the Ret tree. We're going to go for 3 out of 3 in Crusade for 30% increased damage on Crusader Strike and Hammer of the Righteous, 2 out of 2 in Improved Judgment, 2 out of 3 in Rule of Law, and finally 2 out of 2 in Pursuit of Justice. First things first, if you're in the leveling process below level 80, then you're not going to be able to reforge your gear, as armour and weapons must have an eye level of at least 200 to be reforged. The best thing to do is equip as many heirlooms as you can as early as you can. This will greatly increase the survivability and power level of your character throughout the leveling process, and massively increase your XP per hour. If possible, the heirlooms you want to go for are the Burnished Helm, Pauldrons and Breastplate of Might, the Ripped Sandstorm Cloak, the Blood-Soaked Skullforged Reaver, the trinkets Discerning Eye of the Beast and Swift Hand of Justice, and if you're a fishing enjoyer, then the Dead Pirate Ring is also a nice bonus. There's a link in the description for a site detailing all the heirlooms available for you in Cata, how much they cost and where you can buy them. Heirlooms also max out at level 80, so at that point you want to start to pick up regular gear and reforge it to stack as much mastery as possible. So let's now have a look at all the stats important to Prot Paladins and Cataclysm. First off, mastery rating. As I just mentioned, in the pre-patch this is your primary defensive stat to reforge into, as it increases your chances to block an enemy attack. Every hit blocked is reduced in damage by 30%. Stamina, this is still the best overall defensive stat to stack beyond mastery, and it's now strengthened with the Vengeance passive, which converts 5% of your damage taken into attack power up to a maximum of 10% of your health. Expertise is your primary DPS stat, and this will be your go-to stat until you hit the soft cap of 26 expertise. Hit is your second most important DPS stat, and you want to acquire 8% melee hit ASAP. Then we've got parry and dodge, and the most important thing here is that you want to ideally balance your parry and dodge as they diminish at the same rates. For example, don't have 20% dodge and 5% parry, as that means you're going to incur a much heavier diminishing return on dodge than you are on parry. Then finally we've got strength, which is mainly a dump stat in Cataclysm. It does award a small amount of parry, but we only want to pick it up once we're hit capped with 8% melee hit, and expertise hard capped with 56 expertise skill. And then we've got the glyphs then. So the first prime glyph is Glyph of Hammer of the Righteous, which increases both its physical and holy damage by 10%. Then we've got Glyph of Shield of the Righteous, which increases its damage by 10%. And then the final prime glyph is Glyph of Seal of Truth, which grants 10 expertise while Seal of Truth and Seal of Righteousness are active. For the major glyphs we have Glyph of the Ascetic Crusader, which reduces the mana cost of Crusader by 30%. Glyph of Hammer of Wrath, which removes the mana cost completely, and then Glyph of Lay on Hands, which reduces the cooldown by 3 minutes. And for the minor glyphs we have Glyph of Truth, Glyph of Insight, and Glyph of Blessing of Might, and all these minor glyphs reduce the mana cost of the spells by 50%. Let's quickly cover the base mechanics of the Prot Paladin rotation. To boil it down to brass tacks, we have abilities that generate holy power, and abilities that spend them. Our holy power builders are Crusader Strike, Hammer of the Righteous, Divine Plea with 3 out of 3 in Shield of the Templar, and also Avenger's Shield if used within 6 seconds of the Grand Crusader proc. Our holy power spending abilities are Shield of the Righteous, which we want to use for single target situations, and Inquisition, which increases our holy damage by 30%, and we want to use this when attacking multiple targets. Now there's one more holy power spender, World of Glory, which we can dump our holy power into for a little self-heal. Now macroed with a healing potion and a health stone, Word of Glory can be a literal lifesaver. So now for the one button spam macros then. The add-on that I use is called GSE Advanced Macro Compiler, an absolutely fantastic add-on. In a nutshell, GSE allows you to cycle through a list of spells until one comes off of cooldown and then it casts it, meaning that you don't have to worry about rotations, cooldowns or procs. You can just spam the button and the macro will do the rest. By the way, because Crusader Strike and Hammer of the Righteous share a cooldown, we have to set up 2 separate one button macros, one for single target applications and one for multiple targets. Now for the single target situations, we want a macro Avenger's Shield first, followed by Judgment, then Crusader Strike, and then Hammer of Wrath. For multiple targets we're going to keep the same order, but swap out Crusader Strike for Hammer of the Righteous. Most people who choose to use these one button macros are generally those who want to enjoy all aspects of the game, such as heroics and raids, but don't have the time to master their keybinds. Now if that person is you, I want to introduce you to my best friend in gaming, the Razer Tartarus V2. I've been using this bad boy for years now, and it's really helped me to get the most out of my gaming, even though I suffer from stiff and painful joints. The Tartarus will make playing any class in WoW so much easier, and you have my personal guarantee that you won't regret it if you get one. Hit the link up there if you want one, and there's also a link in the description to a review I did recently that's worth a watch. Anyway, let's have a look at the macros in action. First of all, don't forget to keep your Blessing and Seal up, and make sure that Righteous Fury is active at all times. I have weak auras set up to alert me if there's one missing, and you can find all of these on my Discord. Now the AoE macro easily handles multiple mobs. All you need to do is drop Consecration and Holy Wrath as you need them, and if you need to get threat on a mob, then taunt with Hand of Reckoning. On single targets, use the single target macro, and on 3 holy power, use Shield of Righteous. And when dealing with multiple targets, spend on Inquisition for 30% increased damage. Remember that we can get 3 holy power with Divine Plea on a 2-minute cooldown. The last thing I want to talk about is monitoring threat. The one button macros will go a long way to make sure you have lots of threat, but there will always be occasions where your party or raid members get some aggro. The add-on that I use to monitor overall threat is Details, and I locate this at the bottom of my screen. And I have myself 2 macros for turning the Details display on and off. Now, to monitor if party members get aggro, I use the add-on Shadowed Unit Frames and activate Party Border Highlighting on Aggro, which looks like this. I'd then use the add-on Click for Righteous Defense, Hand of Salvation and Hand of Sacrifice, so that I can take care of party members with one click when they get into trouble. I've also set up a weak aura to display the cooldowns of these spells over my party frames so that I can monitor them easily. Using these one button macros will cause error dialogue and text whenever it tries to cast a spell that's on cooldown or out of range.
That spell isn't ready yet. I can't cast that yet. That's still recharging.
The dialogue can be turned off in the audio options, and you can use this script to disable the red text if you want a super clean UI. And I think that's everything. If I've missed anything or you have any questions, then please leave a comment or just let me know if you enjoyed the content. And if you did, then smash that like button and make sure you subscribed, as this means the world to me and it really helps the channel. And with that said, I hope you're enjoying your time in Azeroth, and I'll see you in the next one.